Welcome to Louology's first Crushing It in Aesthetics expert interview. And I'm Erika Feinberg. This is Lou Silberman. And as you may know, Lou is the founder of National Laser Institute. And NLI's been around, I don't know, a couple of decades. And it's one of the largest training institutes in the country for cosmetic laser and cosmetic injections training, things of that sort. And if you've ever experienced the vibe of NLI, it's very upbeat and inspiring, and it all stems from that guy. His mission in life is to help people crush in aesthetics and in life, and he doesn't separate the two, right, Lou? You don't separate life and work. It's all the same to you. So he's a guru when it comes to aesthetics industry. He knows how to build med spas and aesthetics businesses in the millions. And as you can imagine, Lou gets bombarded with thousands and thousands of questions like, what should I specialize in? And how do I start my aesthetics practice or med spa? And how do I market? And how do I negotiate with medical director? All that stuff. What's the paperwork I need? Millions of questions. So Lou founded another company named Louology. Get it? So he's Lou, L-O-U, and ology is the science behind crushing in aesthetics. And he created it to keep aesthetics professionals connected and learning and earning their entire lives. And Louology is free to join, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I just want to dig in with you, Lou, okay? I have a million questions for you. Okay,
let's do it.
But I narrowed it down to 13. So today's interview is going to be more about like how you hone in on your areas of expertise, how you start your practice, and how you get it rocking. Okay, so you ready?
All you.
All right. So once an esthetician or a cosmetic injector graduates from training, what's the first thing they have to do in the state they live in so they can get to work?
It's different on every single state. Some states have regulations for the laser tech. I don't think any states have regulations for the injectors. So basically, anybody that's a cosmetic injector, they learn Botox and fillers, they graduate from the course, they're trained, they go out, literally, they're good to go. There's not like they have to apply for some regulatory license. As long as they have an active physician, nurse, NPP license, they're good to go. In the laser tech world, the cosmetic laser tech world, it's a little bit different. There's a handful of states that have regulations. Say, hey, wait a minute. You can't be practicing until you've got hours of education under your belt. Kind of similar laws to like the culinary world or the cosmetology world or things like that. And for example, in the state of Arizona, they take our course, we give them the logs of the treatments they did, they send in the state, they get their license. Texas, very similar, but only a handful of states, Erika, actually have regulations for cosmetic lasers. The rest of the states, it's like the Wild Wild West. And for cosmetic injections, there is no national certification or training.
Okay, so they pretty much just have to check in with their state, like a medical regulation board, or what's it called in each state?
It's different for every single state. There isn't one consistent board. Some states, it's the medical board that oversees it. Some there's like a radiation board or a laser board or cosmetologist. So it's truly different in every single state. But for somebody who wants to go out and get a job working for somebody else, if they're a injector, they're good to go. There's nothing to do. If they're a cosmetic laser tech and they live in the handful of states that have a legal requirement, they send in their paperwork to the state sends them their license, and voila, all good. Okay,
so now on that note, what's your opinion as to whether they go to work for someone versus starting their own practice?
I would say it's a different answer for the world of cosmetic laser techs and injectors. When I got in this business 18 years ago, I'd say 80% of the cosmetic injectors, which is primarily a nurse-driven market. For every 100 people we train, I feel like it's like 85 nurses, NPs, PAs, maybe 15 doctors. And the doctors, of course, integrate it into their existing practice. Pick up a day or an hour here and there. And the nurses, I find, are doing more part-time or full-time. And when I got this business, I think 80% of the nurses and NPs and PAs actually got a job working for someone else, working for a plastic surgeon, a derm, or primary care office, or a med spa, whatever it may be. Now, the tides have changed. Now I feel like 80% of the nurses that come to us and NPs and PAs, they're looking to start their own freaking business. So they're looking to be more entrepreneurial. And I don't know what happened. Maybe it was COVID or something. Everybody woke up and said, I want to be a business owner. So I don't know if they're crazy or smart, but that's the road people are traveling. Now, the world of cosmetic lasers, little different game because there's more of an expense involved. A cosmetic nurse can open up the practice tomorrow and spend next to no money because you order $10,000 of Botox. You don't even pay the bill for 3 months. They carry the paper, they give you terms, not a big deal. But if you're gonna do cosmetic lasers, you got to buy a device. There's an expense amount. It may cost you $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So not everybody can go afford a device. It's going to cost $50,000 or $100,000. So I find like 94% of the people that take cosmetic laser training usually end up getting a job working for somebody else, a med spa, doc's office, a gym, whatever. But for the ones that are entrepreneurial, have access to investors or funding, then they go out, they buy a laser, they rent a space, and then they become, entrepreneurial business owners too. So a couple different directions people take, and they're pretty similar. But I'm a strong advocate. Even if somebody has the money to start a business or the cojones or the guts, I'm a big believer. Get some experience out there. Walk before you run. Don't quit the day job. Get rocking, rolling, get some income coming in, and then go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's sort of interesting. So you sort of answered a little bit of this next question. Is like, if someone's new and they're more on the technical side, the aesthetics tech side, how can they get creative to get experience under their belt? Like we hear a lot of complaints. No one's willing to hire me. I don't have any experience, especially if they make money to live. So I'm assuming they have to like have a job and then maybe dabble in this, but how can they get really creative to get that experience under their belt?
So in every single industry in the world, I don't care whether somebody's going to be a graphic designer, a chef, a hairstylist, a cosmetic laser tech, an injector, a motorcycle mechanic, it's always the chicken egg thing. How the heck do I get a job when I have no experience? That's like, so many people get freaked out. They don't even want to start a new trade because they're scared of what if, what if I don't? Well, think about it like this. In every single career in the world, all of us, including you and me, we started with no experience. So how the frick did we land that first job? Well, obviously it was not from our experience because we had no experience. So somebody fell in love with us as a person. They said, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice on Erika and Louis. They seem sharp. They seem organized. They got a good vibe, and I can teach them the skills, but they're the person I want to build this business, build this brand. So when people are out there looking for a job, they kind of get it backwards. They get so caught up in, oh shit, I'm stepping in this new field. It's fun. It's exciting. I got good training, but they get so concerned about the perfect resume and how am I going to compete against these people out there? Their mind's in the wrong place. People buy people, Erika. So as a business owner in a service industry, now keep in mind, we're not training people to be computer coders or electrical engineers or graphic designers, but you need a certain skill set. Mm-hmm. With all due respect to the graphic designers and coders and engineers out there, they could probably have a very dry, boring personality, and I'd still hire them because I'm hiring a skill set. But in this business, when people are dealing with people, and my providers are doing injections and lasers, it's a relationship business. My number one concern is, are they going to along? Are they going to connect? Are they going to jive? Are they want to, you want to go back to your hairstylist, not just because they give you a good haircut, because they make you feel special. They're your therapist, your life coach. You're talking about your husband and wives and vacations and dogs and kids and all those things. So people just have to win somebody over to get in the door, because any smart employer will know that they can give somebody more skill sets, Erika. They can give some more experience. You can't give somebody a smile. You can't give somebody charisma or eye contact or teach them how to dress and all those things. So you just got to get in the freaking door somewhere, and then you're off the races. And keep in mind, Erika, this is a big business. Medical aesthetics last year was $16 billion, which means consumers like you and I reached into our pocketbook and spent $16 billion last year. They say in 2030, it's going to hit $30 billion. So that's quite a lot of business out there. The last time I checked, this is about 4 months ago. And let's see, right now we're filming this. We are in, what are we in? Are we in June of 2022? I'm losing my mind. Is that we are in June?
Yeah.
So in June of 2022, there's about 6,500 med spas open for business. When I got in this business 18 years ago, there's probably gonna be like 10,000 before you know it. But that only represents like a piece of the pie. The bigger piece of the pie is all the services that are happening at, the doctors and the physician's offices. It used to just be plastic surgeons and derms doing the aesthetic skincare stuff. Now they do it, but they're the minority. Erika, I promise you, you go to your OBGYN tomorrow, look around, your OBGYN, your primary care doctor, they're offering Botox and cosmetic lasers. So the world is changing. All these medical professionals are looking for a cash business ad with no insurance hassles. So the opportunities are endless. And in the last 8 years, publicly traded gyms, Lifetime Fitness and Equinox are adding med spas and, health. It's becoming so mainstream. Mm-hmm. I joke about this, Erika, but I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart that one day in 5, 10 years from now, you're going to walk through Walmart, you see, the McDonald's, you see the little tire place and guns and the get your eyes checked. You're going to see a little mini med spa in Walmart and in Target. And like, you're going to be driving through in the next, the futuristic In-N-Out Burger McDonald's They always try to supersize, hamburger, fries, and a Coke, and put your leg up here. We're going to zap you from the laser hair as you're driving through. Maybe you won't get that crazy, but you get what I'm saying. You get the point. The business is growing.
Oh, that's great. It's hard because I can't make noise on a Zoom interview. I can't make noise or it cuts you out and you're making love. But Lou, you hit it so big. And I think that's even bigger. That number is even bigger than the pornography industry, how large that business is.
Exactly.
So, it's funny because the Revelana, the software part of the business, I'm working with a gal who was a pediatric nurse. Now she's, in her own med spa. A neurologist who works on men's sexual health and stuff. Like he's now wanting to get away from that insurance business onto this. Yeah. And so it's amazing. And then, so the other thing too, this is another nurse. She was a veteran. She was in the military. She's retired, but this comes up a lot. So the next question, and I had pointed her to some military resources, and she said they're fantastic. But how can someone land funding if they want to start their own practice or med spa? What's the best way? And there's Hispanic ones and, support organizations for specific kind of religions or, where you're from, whatever. There's a lot of niche support organizations.
Yeah, once in a while, there's these funds and grants for, single moms and, if you're from a ethnic community or blah, 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 blah. There's definitely things out there. If you kind of dig deep enough, you can find them. I find most people who start a business and there's a capital requirement, they need 20 grand or 50 grand. Typically they're going to friends and family first. And then if they don't have friends or family with money, then they go to the, what we call the angel investor, just some rich friend who's sold their company for $20 million and has some dollars to play with. And very rarely do you see somebody in our world going out to a private equity firm or venture capital. That's more for the big boys who are doing $1 zillion in sales. Yeah. I find it's family, friends, money. It's take out a home equity loan in the house. Real estate's going through the roof, and you used to have 20 grand equity in your house. Now you got 200 grand. Where you take a loan of 50 grand against your house and start the business. I'm seeing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's really, Lou. Those are great points, and especially if someone wants free treatments for life. It's a great trade. So that's a really good point, Lou. And so on that note, what are the top things you need the money for? So
when somebody starts a practice, regardless whether they're doing a little small scale, like renting a room for $700 a month and, a shoestring budget and 200 square foot spot, or whether they're doing a fancy, crazy med spa like a National Laser and it's 10,000 square feet, we all need the same things. We all have to pay rent. So the rent can range from as little as $500 a month to $1 zillion a month. We all need software. So you've got the Revelana software before you. We all need some kind of med spa software because, we're human. We can't do everything manually. We're in a digital age. So we want to schedule people on a computer. We want automated emails and texts going out to people. We want a way of communicating with our customers where we don't have to think, because we live in this world. We want to focus on what we do best, providing services, and let the software do the day-to-day things. So you got to have the software. If you're going to offer technology, you have to get some equipment, whether it's an expensive equipment that costs 50 or 100 grand, or less expensive that costs $5,000, like a microneedling treatment. You need some kind of technology. If you're going to be offering injections, you've got to buy some product. The good news is you don't have to come any cash out of pocket. You can order $1,000 or $20,000 of Botox and fillers, and the big companies will allow you to start paying on it 3 months later. You need basic office supplies. You need the phone, you need the fax, you got to pay your air conditioning bill and your lights. And then you may just need some furniture because when somebody steps in the lobby, I know you're on a budget, Erika, but they can't sit on the floor, right? So we may have to buy a couch or a chair or some things like that. And you want to look the part. You want to get the scrubs, and you want to sell some skincare products. So you pick up a couple lines to promote skincare, and then you got to make sure that you are regulatory compliant. There's laws out there called HIPAA and OSHA. Basically, that's kind of lingo for meaning we got to play by the rules. You can't run around with open-toed shoes because it's against the medical rules. When a new client comes to a doc's office or a med spa, they sign their new client consent form, giving us permission to do the treatments. And some states have a regulation that you got to keep these customer files, intact for 7 years. I've got 10 zillion storage centers, Erika, files, which is idiotic because now we're in a digital world. So now finally, we're on the cloud and doing, electronic medical records, which I strongly recommend you guys. If you guys are starting a business, avoid the paper, save the trees, get electronic, get digital software. get digital everything. Let's do everything on iPads. Yeah, you're gonna have a one-time cost to buy an iPad, but you're not gonna need 1,000 iPads. You might need 4 or 5, and they're not cheap. They could cost, I don't know, $500-600 for an iPad, but you can get like the knockoff, the Amazon brands, probably a couple $100. So there's definitely ways to do it in a budget. So those are the basic expenses, Erika. But here's my opinion: the most expensive part of starting any business in the world is nothing what I included. In my opinion, the most expensive part is what we of course call working capital. The money we need in our piggy bank to get rocking and rolling, to pay the bills until we turn a profit. Because you tell me, but I've never seen a business in the world, or I'm sure it happens now and then, but very rarely, maybe 5% of the time, does somebody open their doors and that first month they're turning a profit. Usually people, they're upside down. So let's say your expenses, Erika, was $4,000 a month to pay all your bills. Well, maybe your first month you get $2,000 a clients, which is a good start. Well, you're upside down, $2,000 came out of your piggy bank, and that's your working capital. And now maybe your expenses grow to $10,000 a month. And so that to me, I think is kind of the thing that people don't really think through. Like, how long will it take till I turn the corner and make a profit? And I need enough money in the piggy bank. So I always tell people, whatever you think is going to take you, double it. If you think it's going to take you 6 months to turn the corner and break even, and your monthly overhead is, let's say, $5,000 a month, I would say make the assumption you're going to do next to no sales. Maybe you're going to do like a couple grand a month. So if you're burning $5,000 a month for 6 months, that would be $30,000 you need working capital. But now Louis is saying double down, double it. So now 30,000 becomes 60,000. Now that's with doing no sales at all. Of course, if you did 30 grand in sales that year, you wouldn't burn 60 grand, you'd burn 30 grand. Of course, the quicker you get moving, the less working capital you need. But I think that's where, I think there's statistics from the Small Business Association, SBA. They say the reason 90% of all small businesses fail isn't because they aren't good people or good providers. It's because they were undercapitalized, which means they didn't have enough money in the piggy bank to get things rolling,
Yeah, absolutely, Lou. It's so funny, Lou. My next 3 questions are exactly what you were talking about. So
good.
What are some creative tricks to negotiating office space? Because that's probably a big expense, right? Forget about the fax machine. What about office space?
So now is a great time because before COVID hit, it was pretty competitive. You could always negotiate. Somebody wants to rent a space. I've been negotiating before COVID. I negotiated a space in Chicago, and they wanted $24 a foot for rent, and we negotiated, went back and forth, got them down to like $18 a foot, and then COVID hit and the world went kind of crazy. And now so many people are working remote. I feel like the commercial real estate game is getting softer. Residential real estate, for whatever crazy reason, you own a home, it's worth twice as much now as it was before COVID. But in the commercial market, so many people have gone remote and don't want to come to work. Maybe it's because of dogs, kids, family enjoyment, or gasoline. And so I think because of that, the commercial real estate market is starting to slowly get softer. I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. In fact, I think the best example, I was at the mall the other day and I saw a little Tesla auto dealer at the, I think it was a Fashion Square Mall in Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, this location had 4 Teslas in it, Erika, and maybe it's 1,000 square feet. When's the last time you went to a car dealer? There's 1,000 square feet. They usually have 400 cars in this huge lot, but Tesla is reinventing the business. And you know what? Come up here, look on the TVs, look at the digital screen, order online. So I think that the future retail stores and like the Nordstroms of the world that are 100,000 square feet are probably going to go down to 1,000 square feet. You're going to walk in, you're going to look at a big screen, you're going to press the type of dress you want. It's going to show you what you look like on that digital screen, the dress. You'll press buy and it's sent to your home. So I think because of all this crazy innovation, technology, and people working remote, I think it's awesome for our world of medical aesthetics. And I think people are going to be able to get better and better prices, lower and lower, without even having to negotiate that much. I think it's just the state of the market. So I think that it's going to be a great thing for our industry.
That's great. So in other words, they should be using their puppy dog eyes and knowing that they have the upper edge, right? And another thing too that I noticed in the past when I've been negotiating space, sometimes I'll do a graduated. I'll just say, hey, I'm going to fully commit to this 2,500 or 5,000 square feet, but can I start by paying 1,000, then for 2,000, then for 3,000, and graduating using puppy dog eyes, because I'm an entrepreneur and I need your support. But in return, I'll sign a 5-year lease or I'll sign a 7-year lease, And I think if they see that you're going to be a solid tenant, you'll bring in more traffic for the other people in there, and it's high quality traffic. They're looking at all of those things too. They want a good person. So just be a good person and paint a good vision and be someone that they want to say yes to.
And one trick, Eric, I always use, I used it in my negotiations in Chicago. I know in my mind that I could do a 7 or 8 year lease, but I know the market is 5 years. So I go in, I negotiate a deal for 5 years, okay, knowing that I've got some playroom going to 7. And then I say to them, okay, you know what? Okay, we've agreed upon these terms, but I really need an extra $50,000 for tenant improvements. I really need the rent to be $500 less a month. I know this is our deal, but tell you what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna take the 5 year lease. I'm gonna give you 3 more years if you give me the money I want, and voila, done deal. It's like, so they feel like they're getting something, which they are, but I was ready to give it from the get-go anyway.
So you brought something up that wasn't on my list of questions, but very quickly, I want to blow through this because there's bigger things for us to get into. But you mentioned this concept of tenant improvements. Chances are you're going to make their space look beautiful, right? So that's what they're looking for too, is who's going to come in and really upgrade the space and not ruin it, right? That they can trust. But what Louis is saying is you can negotiate with them to give you dollars. And what is it, about $200 a square foot? If you're lucky, you can get from
like in Chicago. In Chicago, the going rate was $30 a foot. We got them up to 50. So we have a 6,000 square foot space there. So we're getting 6,000 times 50. They're giving us $300,000 cash towards a build out. Now, granted, it's going to cost me a lot more than that, but that's a nice chunk to help me out.
That's great. So it's like 20 to 30 a square foot, but go for $200 a square foot.
Yeah, as much as you can get, right?
All right. And then also, like, how do you find all the pre and post care paperwork? Is there liability or releases needed? You touched on that. Like, how do you even find that paperwork and know what you need for the patient?
When I started my business 18 years ago, and I had to gather all this paperwork, client consent forms. I'm saying, I went online, okay, where can I buy this? Can't somebody sell it to me? Nobody would sell it to me, Erika, and I couldn't even find it. And I found out it's because the regulations are different in every single state. Nobody wants to sell it because, well, the paperwork that's clean and legal in Arizona isn't clean and legal in Texas or California. So each one has to be kind of custom tweaks. Now there's basic things. You go to the doctor, it says your name, email, phone number, what drugs you're taking, blah, 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 medical history. And then, so really the best way to do is kind of get some foundational forms, which, we can supply through Louology. There's some foundational forms as a template, as a baseline, a starting point, and then go pay a healthcare attorney for 2 hours of time, a couple $100. Okay, can you tweak this so it's clean and legal based on the state I live in and based on what I'm doing? I don't encourage people to play attorney and try to save $400 because it'll bite you in the ass one day,
Okay, so there's two different sides of this, and you touched on this, so I'm going to say it again because I want everyone joining at least as a free member of Louology. It's just louology.com. Go there, it's free. We're going to be filling that resources part of the library with the pre and post care paperwork, which is usually pretty universal. So if you're doing tattoo removal, it's pretty universal how you prepare someone for that and then what you tell them after you treat them. What's not universal, which is what you're referring to, Lou, is more of the compliance stuff, like the releases and those kinds of things. We're not going to furnish that because we'd rather you do that officially the right way in your state. But we'll have things too in there that are really going to help fast track you in for full access members of Louology. And then, so what are the systems you need? Is an EMR required? And if you have an EMR, does that mean it is HIPAA compliant? And do you need that stuff? Like, how can you explain that?
You don't need electronic medical records, but it'll make your life a lot easier to be digital, especially if all the systems talk to each other. So it's a pain in the butt to set up because you got to take all your files and charts. You got to scan them into the EMR computers. That's a project. You pay some kid $12 an hour and they spend a month doing it. Yeah, you spend a couple $1,000s, depending on how big a database you have. If you got 10 people, it takes you 5 minutes. If you got 10,000 people, it's gonna take a little time. But the hardest part is to transfer the data from the manual paper files into the electronic records and into the software. And then once you get that done, then it's smooth sailing, Erika. Then you're off to the races and you're just paying a small monthly fee for your software. And it makes life so much easier because what can go wrong in the business world will go wrong. I hate to say this, but computers break, they freeze, buildings burn down. Let me ask you a question, Erika. Has your iPhone or Samsung ever frozen where it just doesn't work for a second and barfed and you've lost contact information? You want to scream and yell? Well, welcome. Now we're in the world of the cloud. And so, now it's like we have this data saved in the cloud. So the building burns down, it would suck, but it's okay. We have insurance and all our data and information and client information is in the cloud. So by using the electronic medical records, the EMRs, and the Revelana softwares. And if those softwares of the world, we're protected. We're safe.
Okay, that's great. So one of our Revelana clients, a software client, he's a doctor, and he's using an EMR and he's paying $600 a month. And he's had it since 2013. So from what I've noticed in the market, it looks like the prices of EMRs have come down a lot, and he's still paying very high old-fashioned prices. So that's something I'm going to be researching for Louology and Revelana to get that answer in there, like what EMR should I be using? And so that's been huge. And it's from what you said, it sounds, Lou, that you're encouraging people to get it right off the bat so they don't have to catch up and all that data in.
We use one called Aesthetic Record. To be honest with you, it's a nice brand in the industry, but I really don't know. Is it the best? Is it worse? Is it mid-market? Because there's always things that you always find these things that it can't do and you get frustrated. But then you go to the next system, which can do the things that your system couldn't do, and then it can't do other things. So it's like you're always trading off, good versus bad. So you kind of have to first say, okay, what are my needs? What are my top 5 things I need? And which software comes the closest as far as meeting those criteria? And it'll never be perfect, Erika, unless somebody does a custom coding. That gets crazy expensive and is a tough game. So yeah, you really got to do your homework initially to say, okay, it's not going to be perfect. Any software you got is not going to be perfect, but does it have as many possible features that meet your needs based on what you want to do as possible? And then you go down that road and hope for the best,
Yeah, absolutely. And do you happen to know how much you pay for it? Roughly?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I can't remember.
All right. All I know, that's my job, Louology. I'm going to do my research on that part, and we're going to get that answer.
But one of my goals, I hate it when I see all my thousands and thousands of customers paying these crazy prices because they get sucked in by some salesperson. They're spending $800 a month on something they could be spending $100 a month for. So I love to deliver that information to the world because, we all got to start somewhere, and it sucks if somebody gets sold a bill of goods and they're paying triple what they have to if they don't even need to,
Yeah, I'd rather them pay $50 a month and take us out for sushi.
Exactly. A sushi, thank you.
So what's the criteria for whether a practice needs a medical director, and how do you find out in your state?
So every single state in the United States of America, is it 50 states now? It used to be 52. It's 50 now, right? Right, 52, Hawaii and Alaska. I'm backwards. It used to be 50, now it's 52, right? Hawaii and Alaska.
We have Guam.
I had it backwards. Okay, so every state in the country needs a medical director. People get confused sometimes. Or what is a medical director? A medical director is always a MD or a DO. They always qualify in every state. In some states, a naturopathic physician or a nurse practitioner can qualify also. So by just picking up the phone and calling your medical board, you can ask them the question, hey, who could be a medical director in this state? And they'll tell you. So you've got to get somebody to be a medical director. Now, hospitals have a medical director. Physician's office have a medical director. And if I was a doctor, Erika, you couldn't pay me $1 million a year to be a medical director at a hospital or a doc's office because people die. There's drug interactions, people die, you're a liable party. But to be a medical director for a med spa or injectables or lasers, nobody dies from Botox or lasers. Our biggest event is a blister, a bruise, a heavy brow, or droopy eye. So the risk is I don't want to say nothing because there's no risk-free thing in this life, but the risk for a medical director is next to nothing. So, I know so many people, they take a monthly fee to be they're the supervising party. They sign the piece of paper, the doctor, the practice. Let's say, okay, you want to start practice tomorrow. You're not a nurse, you're not a doctor, you're not a laser tech. You want to be a business owner and hire laser techs and hire nurses. Well, what you do is you get the doctor to sign the little agreement, okay, saying they'll be the supervising party. You get their license, you send their license into the vendors like Allergan and Galderma. And now you, Erika, you yourself or a receptionist can call in and place all the future prescription orders for Botox and fillers, things like that. And the doctor is delegating permission for your team to do these services. I've seen people charge as little as free to be a medical director. Maybe it's a barter deal. Maybe it's a friend of the family or something like that. I've seen barter deals where the doctor, maybe their family comes in for treatments and they don't take a fee. I've seen people take a piece of the action. I've seen people get a monthly fee. I'd say the norm is probably a flat monthly fee, low $500 a month, high $1,500 a month. Let's say average $800 to $1,200 a month, in that range. I've seen some doctors that have their name on 10 clinics in the same state. They're charging $1,000 a month. They're making 10 grand a month, and they're popping in every 3 months and saying hi. So not a bad gig, not a bad gig for a doctor. Would you like me to share real briefly on kind of some tips and tricks on, how we recommend people find a medical director?
Sure.
Sure. So quick, I get asked this all the time. So people say, oh my gosh, how do I find a medical director? It seems so complicated and hard. So I remember back in the day, 18 years ago, I knew nobody in this space, Erika. I wasn't an aesthetic guy. I was a health and beauty online marketer and TV marketer. I didn't know the aesthetic world. So, but this is back in the day where we used actually fax machines. I'm aging myself, but we didn't have phone faxes. We had actually fax machines. So I sent out 500 faxes to 500 dermatologists in the state of Arizona to say, hey, you don't know me. This is my first year in business. I'm going to be a big company one day. You want to be in business with me. Here's why. And so out of 500 people, I think 2 people replied. And one guy named Sasha Jazarari, he's a new derm, hungry to be involved in the practice. He said, sure, this seems fun. Love to have my name on there and be involved. And so hired him. So that was back in the day. So nowadays, my recommendation is first, go with your own network of who do you know? Who do you go to for your OBGYN? Who's your primary care doctor? And ask them, hey, do you want to be my medical director? Blah, blah, blah. In most states, they don't even have to have a lot of knowledge in injections and technology. In some states, like Arizona, maybe you have to take a 1-day class of pretty basic stuff. If for some reason you know nobody, you have no friends that are doctors or NPs, then step 2, in my opinion, is simply go on Google and Google med spa, Botox treatment, laser hair removal treatment, blah, blah, blah. And you will see, Erika, 50, 100, 1,000 med spa docs have to show up that are doing these services. So if you go on their website,
they have to be in your region, right?
In the state you live in, exactly. Yes. Okay. In the state you live in. Yes, good point. So you live in Chicago, it has to be in the state of Illinois. A medical director has to have an active license in the state you live in. So you go online, 50 locations pop up. I guarantee you out of those 50 websites that come up, 40 of them will list who the medical director is. They'll mention, our medical director is Louis or Erika on the website. So find that medical director on Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, send them a message. Hey, I'm new in town. I'm starting my own business. I heard you got a great reputation. You're the medical director here. You know the game. Would you be interested in putting your name on another clinic and being my medical director too? Guess what? You don't have to educate them. You don't have to explain anything. They're already joining it, Erika. And they know, wow, this is easy. I'm going to make some more money. So to me, that's the no-brainer right there. That's the way that's pretty much the way I would do it personally. You can't lose that way. Now, is it a little time consuming? Yeah, but I bet you could knock it out in 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, that's great. And also, again, full access members of Louology, we have sample contracts that just give you the idea. They're not legal documents, but they are. You can't use them as a legal document, but they just give you the pieces of what you should be including in your agreement with your medical director. And also you wrote, and we have that in the resources too, you wrote a really great email of what you say to even say hello. And try to get someone to get back to you to have that meeting about being the medical director.
And honestly, I think that's the easiest part of starting a business, Erika. A lot of people freak out about that and stress out. I think that's the easiest part. The hardest part, as you know, Erika, is it's how do we market ourselves to get new clients in the door and keep them coming back. And that's always the hardest part of any business in the world. But once you figure it out, once you get there, it's like, wow.
That's going to be one of our Crushing in Aesthetics interviews. It's going to be just about that. Like when you open your door, how do you get people coming in?
Yeah. Because everybody gets excited. They think, oh, all my friends and family are going to come in, all these people in the hospital, my job. And then all of a sudden you thought 100 people would be storming down your door, like 3 of them show up. You're like, oh shit, what do I do now?
Yeah. So we'll get there.
Okay, that's part of the journey.
Yeah, we're definitely going to dive into that. It's important. But okay, so I have 3 questions left and they're really, really good ones. So how do you even figure out what equipment to buy? What technology do you like the best? What do you start with? And again, I want to preface this by, we keep saying again and again and again, don't go overboard right away. Just hone in on what's the best choice for you and work your way out from there as a growth strategy, right? So how do you even figure out what equipment to buy and start with?
So there's 2 schools of thought here. One is, okay, what's your passion? What do you like to do? Maybe it's hair removal, maybe it's cold sculpting, maybe it's tattoo removal, blah, blah, blah. And then the other thing is, okay, well, forget what you like. What's the market asking for? What's the market demanding? I remember back in the day, I didn't tell you this, Erika, but back in the day, this is going back to 1997, I was obsessed with smoothies. I still am. But there was really no big players across the country. There's one company called the Juice Club, which has just opened up. And I decided to open up a smoothie bar. So I opened that because I love them so much. I opened up a little smoothie bar in Old Town Scottsdale and on the strip of Las Vegas, Nevada. And then I quickly realized that the Juice Club got an investment from Starbucks. They blew up, became this big company. I was ready to get killed, to go bankrupt. And then I realized, Erika, that I got in the business for the wrong reason. I got in the business because it was like a hobby and fun and a passion, but I didn't really look out there and see, okay, what's the demand? How many people are buying smoothies a day? And I didn't think of the fact that, gosh, what if supermarkets like Whole Foods started offering smoothies and restaurants started smoothies? I didn't realize like that could destroy me, because then it's like, so I kind of jumped too fast on this passion and emotion for me liking smoothies. And I should have done more market research on, how many people get smoothies, where do they get them, what do they cost, what's the competition, blah, blah, blah. So my recommendation is, first, yes, know what you like doing. But then second, see what the market is. A lot of people get really excited about tattoo. Oh, my friends have tattoos, they want them off. They got their ex-girlfriend or boyfriend on their body, and now they broke up. And so I'm going to get into tattoo because it seems cool and it seems growing. Well, you're right, it is growing, but people don't realize it's a niche, Erika. It's like one of the smaller niches. I mean, hair removal is way bigger than that. Botox is way bigger. Skin reduction. So, but people get excited, they jump in, and they don't really say, okay, well, how many people in the state I live in have tattoos and might be removing them? You really got to look at both sides of the equation. So once now you know what you like and what the market's asking for, then you get into, okay, do I want to be another one of the many out there and be a marketing machine and figure it out? Or do I want to be more of a niche provider and find some technologies kind of more niche and unique and one of a kind and kind of have that point of difference? And then also, what's my price point? Because there's devices that are $5,000 and $150,000. So but here's what's interesting. You would think if you buy a more expensive device, Erika, that costs like $100,000, you can charge a higher ticket. Not necessarily. Devices that do hair removal, they can cost $80,000 to $100,000. But if the average ticket is $200, that's not a big ticket. And then there's devices that are like the skin pen or this microneedling pen costs $5,000. The average cost might be the same, $200.
Right.
So that's a better return on investment. You buy a device for $5,000, you charge $200 versus buying a device for $100,000, charge $200. If you can do the same amount of clients per month, that's a no-brainer to me. Buy the cheaper one in that case. Now, if for some reason for laser hair removal, you could see 15 clients a day, and on the microneedling, you can only see 3, then maybe it makes sense to buy the more expensive device. So there's a lot of variables out there. The biggest mistake I see in the industry is people go out and they buy 2 or 3 devices from the get-go because I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to build this big brand, which is great to be excited. But even if you have the money, I think it's idiotic. I think you always got to walk before you run because, like when I started this business back in the day, now I've got millions and millions and millions of dollars of equipment that I don't pay for. The biggest companies in the world, they give it to us for free because they want the exposure. But back in the day, 18 years ago, I bought 2 devices. I bought a laser hair removal device that the representative told me could treat any skin type, whether they're as dark as Denzel Washington or as light as Nicole Kidman. This is the laser hair removal device. I found out 6 months later, Erika, that they lied to me, and I called you laser. So that they lied.
That's the name. By the way, that's the name of his dog. He just called me the name of his dog.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
we'll
a very
go
pretty
on.
dog. It's a very cute dog. But anyway, so I found out this laser I bought, they spent $80,000 for, could not treat skin types 5s and 6. It couldn't treat African Americans or Asians or Middle Easterns or Italian or from Mexico. So I'm like, geez, I feel like I threw away $80,000. And I did the same mistake on a tattoo removal device. They said it can treat any color ink, black, blue, green, red. And that wasn't the case. So I jumped too fast. If I was smarter, probably would have bought one device, played it out, and realized like, oh, no. I mean, so we all get excited and we move too quick. So you really got to, in hindsight, what I should have done is once I got sold by the rep and got excited about the direction I was going, I should have not listened to their references. I should have picked up the phone and called complete strangers I've never met who own the same device and, hey, tell me the pros, tell me the cons. I mean, I find myself, everybody says, Louis, you're such a smart guy, you're so intelligent. Apparently not, because I didn't pick up the phone and ask somebody, can this laser hair removal treat every skin type? Can this tattoo? If I'd asked those questions, I would have saved $200,000 by just slowing the frick down,
Yeah. Hey, a couple of things I want to, that this is so powerful. A couple of things I want to point out is number one, my experience inside of National Laser is that when you are around your instructors, around you, like you guys have so much knowledge in your heads. So pick the brains, get a mentor, join Louology, whatever you have to do, like have a mentor to turn to, because the market, this is the other thing, your clients are going to tell you what they need next. So you make your first decision. It's that client base that should be telling you where to go next. And then you turn to a mentor and say, this is where I need to go. What's the best choice? And that's the way you should go. The other thing I've noticed too, which is brilliant, like the students, I don't know if they're called students, but your students in your institute, when they're going through training, the trainees,
Sure.
they're getting treated as models, like by other technology they're not even being trained on, and then they end up saying, oh my god, I love the and then they learn that they love that treatment, and that's what they want to specialize in. So you've said this in mentor sessions, like, go get treatments too. If you can't do it in the training program and get it like while you're there, go book one and experience it and see what it's like. And if they suck, that means you can get into that market and compete and not suck, right? If they just suck as people. So anyway, that's also something we can really unpack in just one session of crushing it. So we'll get into that. So you ready for another question?
Sure.
Okay, so how do you buy it? And does it need to be registered? Is it inspected by the state? Anything like that when you get the technology?
So to buy technology, typically you have to be lined up with your medical director, because the laser company that sells you the device wants to know that you've got that supervising party. So you're playing by the rules. And a lot of people get confused because everybody talks about like you lease a laser, or finance a laser. So when you lease a car, finance a car, the way it works is like if you finance a car, let's say you're paying $500 a month for the car. If you lease a car, maybe you're paying $350 a month, but you have to give the car back after 5 years. If you're financing the car, you're paying more money, but you get to keep the car. So in laser, regardless of whether they call it a finance or a lease, it's yours. It's yours. You're keeping it. It's all semantics. So typically they want you to put down 10 or 20% of the cost of the laser based on your credit. So if a device is $60,000, you'll put down $6,000 to $12,000, and you'll make a monthly payment, typically over 3, 5, 7 years, whichever term you choose, and whatever the market interest rates are, until it's paid off. Now, the good news is payments are the way to go, in my opinion. You never want to pay cash for a laser device, even if you can afford it, because it's kind of like a car. Very few cars hold their value, Erika. Maybe the collector items from years ago, but I bought a the last car I bought was a Jaguar F-Type 5 years ago. I think I paid $85,000 for it. And I looked the other day, and even this is a hot market for used cars. And even this hot market is worth $30,000. So I'm upside. I lost $50,000, right? Mm-hmm. So technology is kind of like that. I mean, it'll still be good and last forever, but there's always something latest and greatest and new that you want to trade in the old stuff and get the new stuff. So I strongly recommend you never, ever cut a check and pay cash for it. I know old school is all, pay cash for everything. You have no debt, no bills. I get that. But if you want to be in this business forever, you want to evolve for the times, have the latest and greatest things. You don't want to get stuck with technology. Nobody wants a aesthetic treatment that's 20 years old. You want to know what Kim Kardashian did last week, not 20 years ago, right? So for somebody to buy equipment, they're going to have 10, 20 grand in the bank and be willing to make the payments. I know it's freaky to think, oh my gosh, all right, Louis, you tell me a payment could be $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month, and it's a frightening number, right? But if you get a treatment, Erika, if a customer comes in and gets a treatment, let's say the cost of a treatment is $500 for a 30-minute technology-based, skin rejuvenation treatment, how many clients a month would you need to see if your payment is $1,500 a month and each client spends $500? 3 clients a month pays your bills. Could you see 3 clients in a month? Probably. If it takes 30 minutes, you could see 3 clients in a half day, Erika. So really in one day, in less than one day, you could pay for the cost of your device. Now it doesn't sound as scary. Now you're like, deep breath. I think I can do that. Even though it's a big ticket. Now, there's one other thing. Warranties. If you buy a device new, they're going to give you a warranty for free for a year or two, like you will for a car. And then you'll have to continue paying for the warranty if you want it fixed anytime the software, the technology breaks. Now, some devices are workhorses. They could go years without breaking down, and some break every 6 months because they're tied to software. So I'm a big believer of getting warranties because what can go wrong in this world will go wrong. And if your device goes down and it takes them 2 weeks to fix it, so you have no warranty, you pissed off 100 customers and your brand smashed. And you may have. So everybody says, Louis, if I buy this used device, I don't have to pay 70 grand. I can pay 20 or 30 grand. Louis, why would I ever blow an extra 50 grand? Well, that's the reason. Because when you buy a used device, you can't get a warranty. You've got to get it fixed yourself. You think you can get it done in a couple of days. A couple of days turns into a couple of weeks. Yes, you save 50 grand, but if you pissed off 300 clients, they're slamming you on Yelp, you're bankrupt. It was the worst decision ever made. So you're kind of like, what's the term, Erika? It's called like penny wise, dollar foolish. Like you're trying to save a penny and it costs you $1,
Yeah, right on. So this has been so, even I feel smarter after this. I love it. And you know, the last two questions we already answered. This one, what's the biggest mistakes aesthetics professionals make when they start their practices? It's about making stupid buy decisions, jumping in without your research, and going too big too fast.
Yeah.
You know, let it grow, right? And this last question, I think I'm going to save for an entire segment on its own, crushing it in aesthetics. What's the number one best way for an owner or esthetician to get their practice rocking? That's another, so we'll cover that in another.
Yeah, that's a session in itself. We can talk about that for hours.
And I want to interview, even though this is your show, like I want to interview you for that, because I don't know about you.
But what if I can't answer the question, Erika? You're putting me on the spot. I'm gonna freeze.
So I had a blast, and this is a perfect way for us to wrap up our inaugural Crushing in Aesthetics. I just got the chills. I just love this. We want to start with a great guest, so we started with Lou, the best, and we'll have a different professional on for specific subjects like branding and legal. Hopefully, we can get your lawyer friends, marketing, recruiting, compliance, that kind of stuff. Maybe EMR, technology, that kind of stuff. So you can influence our topics too. So we're here for you. I want you to know that. And you can either email us your needs at crushingit@louology.com or message us on social at Ask Louology. And we are very, very grateful to have you part of our community. Please, we're excited to keep you learning and earning and making it seem easy and fun. So please follow us, subscribe, stay invited, okay? Any parting words, Lou? Because I'm going to say bye for now.
Yeah, because we live in a world of social media, I encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram at Ask Louology, like ask a question, ASK Louology. There's all kinds of fun tips and tricks and motivation, inspiration. So you're constantly coming up, you guys, with questions and ideas, and will this work, and what does this cost? So hit us up. We're here to help you. We're here to serve you. I mean, obviously, all of us are out there to earn a living, you know, and we're excited about launching our Revelana software, and you know, that'll be a huge, revenue stream for us. But it's going to be awesome because, when we put that out in the marketplace, we're going to be like way lower than the marketplace. It'll be the best value out of the marketplace. But my real goal is to provide content, information, education, so you guys don't make the mistakes I made. I made a zillion dollar mistakes, and thank goodness I've got 18 years under my belt. I can say, hey, do this, don't do that. And I want you all to succeed. I thrive off healthy competition. There's plenty of room, Erika, for everybody. I don't care if there's 1,000 people in my block that are in the same business. There's such a big marketplace. We all can get our piece of the market. So it's just so much fun to help people grow and earn more money and learn and just get pumped and see them watch their dreams come true. So that's what it's all about for me.
I love it. Me too. Again, I got the chills again. So my name's Erika Feinberg. This is Crushing It in Aesthetics with Lou Silberman. Lou, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for devoting your time to this. I hope you all loved it. All right.
And we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. Thank you, Erika.
All right. Bye for now.